Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into some ancient texts today, sources full of wisdom and often, well, pretty surprising stories. Today we're looking closely at a figure from early Buddhist history, someone many might think they know, but whose full story, the motivations, the lessons learned from his actions, maybe run deeper than we usually hear.
We're talking about Devadatta.
Exactly. And our mission today is really to try and uncover the whole story, the full context around him and what happened.
And for that, we're going straight to a really powerful source, excerpts from the Sanghabhedakkhandhaka. That's the chapter on Schism from the Cullavagga.
Okay.
It gives us this incredibly detailed view of a pretty challenging time for the early Buddhist community. And as we explore it, you'll see how appearances can be, well, quite deceiving.
Right.
And why looking beyond just the surface narrative is so important for grasping the whole picture.
Okay, let's dive in then. So the story, interestingly, doesn't kick off directly with Devadatta.
No, it starts with a surprising turn involving some other really notable figures, especially Prince Ajātasattu, who was known for being incredibly pampered.
Pampered how? Give us the picture.
Well, the Buddha's in Anupiya, right? And there's this wave of Sakyan princes renouncing, leaving their worldly lives.
Okay.
And Anuruddha, the texts literally call him very delicate. He had, get this, 3 palaces, one for winter, one for summer, one for the rainy season.
3 palaces.
Yeah, and during the monsoon, it says he was served by women musicians for 4 months straight and apparently never even came down from that rainy season palace.
Wow, that's a level of comfort.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine. So his brother, Mahāmoggallāna, he notices all these other Sakyan princes are joining the Sangha.
Right, but nobody from their specific family had gone forth yet.
So he suggested to Anuruddha, maybe one of us should go.
Exactly, and Anuruddha's reaction is just what you'd expect from the delicate prince.
Not me.
Pretty much. I'm too delicate. I can't possibly do it. You go.
But Mahāmoggallāna doesn't give up there.
No, he's persistent. He tries a different angle. Instead of just pushing, he paints this incredibly vivid, almost exhausting picture of household life.
Well, like the chores.
Exactly. Plowing, sowing, irrigating, harvesting, threshing, winnowing, on. And then he says, and it'll be the same next year and the year after that. The point being, this kind of work, it never ends.
And that clicks for Anuruddha.
That's the moment. He suddenly gets it, this endless cycle of worldly duties, and he decides, okay, I'll renounce.
But his mother, I imagine she wasn't thrilled.
Not at all. Understandably reluctant, loves her sons, says she'd rather die than let him go. Then she sets this condition, probably thinking it's impossible.
Which was?
If Padilla the Sakyan king renounces, then you too may renounce.
She figured the king would never do it.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Padilla the king is actually a childhood friend of Anuruddha's.
Right. So Anuruddha goes to him, and Padilla is, well, extremely reluctant, offers him anything else, any other help, just not renouncing.
Well, tries to delay. Oh, yeah. Asks for 7 years to sort things out, then 6, then 5, all the way down to just 7 days. Just enough time to hand over the kingdom. It really shows you the perceived weight of kingship, the sacrifice involved.
So 7 days it is. And then this whole group leaves together. Padilla, Anuruddha, Ananda, Bhagu, Kimbala, Devadatta, and Upali the barber.
Yes, they leave with a 4-fold army escort and send it back. They shed their royal ornaments, symbolizing letting go. But here's a really crucial moment involving Upali.
The barber. What happens with him?
They give Upali all their valuable ornaments to take back to the city. But on the way, Upali starts thinking, these Sakyans, he thinks, they're known to be fierce. They might actually harm me, thinking I drove away their princes.
So he's scared.
Right. So in this moment of clarity, he decides, I'm going to renounce too. He hangs the treasures on a tree, basically saying finders keepers, and turns back to join them.
And how do the princes react when they see their former barber coming back to renounce?
This is what's so powerful. They praise his decision. And then these high-born princes ask the Buddha to ordain Upali first, before any of them.
Wow. Why? What's the significance there?
It's a deliberate act of humility. The text says they did it to counteract their own Sakyan pride, their Sakyamano. They wanted to humble themselves by honoring their former servant first.
That's profound. Understanding that status means nothing on this path.
Exactly. And the Buddha agrees, of course. It sets a powerful tone right from the start.
And their spiritual progress? Do they all reach enlightenment straight away?
Not quite enlightenment for all, but significant progress very quickly. Padilla, the former king, attains the 3 knowledges, insight into past lives, the divine eye and the end of defilements. Anuruddha gains the divine eye. Ananda achieves stream entry, that first irreversible stage.
And Devadatta.
Devadatta develops ordinary psychic power, Puthujjanike iti, so potential was there, definitely.
Okay, so let's circle back to Badia, the former king. His transformation is really striking, isn't it? Other monks hear him in the forest, constantly exclaiming, "Oh, Sukha," oh, what bliss.
Yeah, just, oh, bliss, all the time.
And the other monks naturally think.
They think he's missing his kingdom. They assume the bliss he's talking about must be nostalgia for his old life, the power, the comfort. It's a classic projection.
That wasn't it at all.
Not even close. The Buddha calls Badia over and asks him directly, and Badia explains, look, when I was king, I had guards everywhere inside the palace, outside, in the city, in the country, but I lived in constant fear, anxiety, dread.
Even with all that protection.
Exactly. But now, he says, here in the forest, alone, I live without fear, without anxiety, without dread. I feel free like a deer. That was the source of his bliss. True inner freedom.
That's such a powerful insight. It really makes you question assumptions, doesn't it? How often we might look at someone and totally misread their inner state based on external appearances.
Precisely. Padia's story is a perfect illustration of needing to uncover the hidden truth, the whole story, behind what seems apparent.
So that sets a baseline for genuine spiritual transformation. Now, let's turn to Devadatta. He also gained psychic power initially?
Yes, he did.
But his path diverges dramatically. What happens?
Well, the Buddha moves the community to Kosambi, and Devadatta starts thinking differently. His thoughts turn to, who can I impress? How can I get more gain, more honor?
Okay, so the focus shifts from inner practice to external validation.
Exactly. And he identifies his target, Prince Ajātasattu. Young, bright future, influential.
And he uses his psychic power to impress him.
Oh, in a very dramatic way. He transforms himself into a young boy wearing a belt of snakes and just appears suddenly on Ajatasattu's lap.
Whoa, that would be terrifying.
It apparently was. Scares the prince, then Devadatta reveals his true form. Quite the performance.
And it works. Ajātasattu is impressed.
Totally. The prince starts showering Devadatta with support. Huge amounts. 500 chariots visiting daily. 500 portions of high-quality rice delivered every day. Just massive patronage.
What does this sudden flood of gain and honor do to Devadatta?
This is the critical turning point. The texts are very clear. He was overwhelmed by gain, honor, and fame, his mind consumed. And this leads him to think, I will lead the community of monks.
Ah, the ambition takes root.
And the source says, at that very moment, his mind was consumed by this ambition. He lost his psychic powers.
Wow. The power vanished the instant the motivation became corrupt.
It's a stark connection. It shows how fragile that kind of power is when it's tied to ego and external things.
So the Buddha learns about Devadatta's growing influence with the prince. How does he respond? Does he confront Devadatta?
Not directly at first. His response is more aimed at the other monks. He warns them explicitly. Do not envy Devadatta's gain and honor. It won't lead to growth for him, only to decline in wholesome qualities.
And he uses some pretty strong analogies to drive the point home, right?
Very strong, almost harsh. Like a fierce dog whose gallbladder bursts, making it even fiercer and leading to its death. Or like a banana tree or bamboo or a reed, they bear root. And that very fruit leads to their destruction.
Or the mule.
Yes, the mule conceiving a fetus that ultimately kills it. The message couldn't be clearer. This kind of gain and honor for someone like Devadatta whose mind was unprepared or corrupted was toxic. It was leading directly to his ruin.
This really puts it in a bigger context. It's not just about Devadatta being bad. It's a teaching on the universal danger of ambition tied to external validation, even in a spiritual context.
Absolutely. The goal isn't power or fame, it's liberation. And Devadatta seems to have lost sight of that completely. This misunderstanding sets the stage for everything that follows.
And things escalate quickly from there. Despite the warnings, Devadatta's resentment seems to grow. His ambition moves beyond just leading the Sangha.
Yes, it shifts towards trying to usurp the Buddha himself.
He actually asks the Buddha to retire.
Directly. He goes to the Buddha and says, basically, look, you're old now. You should take it easy. Enjoy some pleasant abiding. Let me take over. I'll take care of the community of monks.
That takes some serious nerve.
Incredible audacity. The Buddha refuses him flat out 3 times and then dismisses him very harshly. I wouldn't entrust the community even to Sāriputta and Mahāmoggallāna, he says, my chief disciples. Much less to you, you contemptible wretch. Ouch.
That public rebuke, that must have stung.
The text calls it Devadatta's first anger, his first agato. And following this, the Buddha takes a formal step. He instructs the Sangha to perform a pakasanniyakama in Rajagaha.
A public declaration.
Exactly. A public announcement stating, essentially, Devadatta's nature used to be one thing, now it's something else. Whatever he does or says from now on, don't see it as representing the Buddha, the Dhamma, or the Sangha. See it only as Devadatta.
Wow. A formal disassociation. Who was tasked with making this announcement?
Sāriputta. And he actually hesitates at first. He points out, but I previously praised Devadatta in Rajagaha, said he was very mighty.
How did the Buddha respond to that?
He basically told him, was that true then? Yes. And is this true now? Yes. Then just state the truth. It shows the commitment to transparency, even when it's difficult. Protecting the community and the Dhamma was paramount.
And did this stop Devadatta?
Not at all. Things escalated further. He starts plotting to assassinate the Buddha.
Assassinate him?
Yeah, in fact,
And he involved Ajātasattu again?
yes. First, he goes back to the prince. He proposes a horrifying pact. You kill your father, King Bimbisāra, and become king. I'll kill the Buddha and become the Buddha.
Good grief. What did Ajātasattu do?
He was terrified but initially agreed. However, his ministers caught wind of the plot. When King Bimbisāra heard why his son wanted him dead because Devadatta put him up to it, he actually just abdicated. He gave the throne to Ajātasattu.
Incredible. So the first plot failed. What did Devadatta try next?
He hired an assassin, sent just one man to kill the Buddha. The assassin approaches the Buddha, but he's completely overcome by the Buddha's presence and teaching. He converts on the spot. The Buddha then tells him to leave by a different path, presumably to avoid Devadatta.
But Devadatta had backups.
He did. He had sent 2 more assassins as backup, then 4 more behind them, then 8, then 16. But the same thing happened to each group. They encountered the Buddha, were calmed by his presence, heard his teaching, and were converted.
16 assassins converted. So Devadatta decides to take matters into his own hands.
Exactly. For the second attempt, Devadatta himself climbs Jijakuya, Vulture's Peak Mountain, while the Buddha is walking meditation on the path below. He pries loose a huge boulder and sends it crashing down.
Towards the Buddha.
Directly towards him. But then something extraordinary happens. 2 other peaks, or protrusions on the mountain, somehow converge and stop the main boulder.
Wow. Intercepted it.
Miraculously. However, a small splinter breaks off the main rock and flies down, striking the Buddha's foot and drawing blood.
So he was injured.
Yes. And this act, drawing the blood of a Buddha, is identified as Devadatta's first anantarika kama, one of those extremely heavy karmic deeds with immediate consequences in the next life.
What was the reaction? The monks must have been alarmed.
They were. They rushed to surround the Buddha, chanting protective verses. But the Buddha told them to stand down. He stated very clearly, "It is impossible for a Tathagata to be killed by another's attack. They pass away only when their lifespan naturally ends."
He reassured them.
Yes, and he used the moment to teach, contrasting himself a teacher pure in conduct, livelihood, teaching, exposition, and insight with Devadatta.
So 2 failed attempts using others, 1 failed attempt by himself. Did he try again?
He did. The third attempt is perhaps the most famous. Back in Rajagaha, Devadatta conspires with elephant keepers.
Oh, the Nalagiri story.
Exactly. He gets them to release Nalagiri, a notoriously fierce, man-killing elephant, onto the street right when the Buddha is expected to walk by on his alms round.
This sounds incredibly dangerous. The monks must have tried to stop the Buddha.
They did. They saw the elephant charging and urged the Buddha to turn back. But he refused, just kept walking calmly forward.
What was the scene like?
People were terrified, climbing onto roofs and balconies to watch. The text mentions the contrasting thoughts. Some disbelievers thinking, now the great ascetic will be destroyed. Others, the faithful ones, saying, no, today the elephant will contend with the elephant, referring to the Buddha as a great being.
And what did the Buddha do as this raging elephant charged him?
He simply directed thoughts of loving kindness, metta, towards Nalagiri.
And it worked.
Instantly. The elephant, which had its trunk raised, ready to strike, suddenly lowered it. It walked calmly up to the Buddha and just stood there, docilely. The Buddha reached out, straightened its forehead, and spoke a verse of teaching. Nalagiri was completely tamed.
That's an incredible display. Not fighting force, but with compassion.
Absolutely. And the public reaction was immediate. People turned on Devadatta, calling him evil, unlucky. His support plummeted, while respect and faith in the Buddha soared. It really highlights the difference between brute force or manipulation and the true power of inner qualities like compassion and fearlessness. It uncovers where real strength lies.
So his reputation is ruined, his support is gone, the assassination plots failed. What's left for Devadatta?
He tries one last tactic, causing a formal split, a schism within the Sangha itself.
How does he go about that?
He approaches a few other discontented monks, Cullavagga, Kamarakotisaka, and others, and proposes they make a formal break. His plan is quite strategic, actually.
What's the strategy?
He suggests they go to the Buddha and ask him to make 5 specific practices mandatory for all monks. Lifelong forest dwelling, only eating alms food, only wearing rag robes, always dwelling at the root of a tree, and completely abstaining from fish and meat.
These sound like very strict ascetic practices.
They are, and Devadatta guessed correctly that the Buddha wouldn't make them compulsory for everyone.
Why not? Weren't these seen as noble practices?
They were respected, yes. But the Buddha's approach was more about the middle way, recognizing different aptitudes. His response, when Devadatta proposed these, was crucial. He said these practices are optional. Let whoever wishes be a forest dweller. Let whoever wishes only eat alms food, and so on. He pointed out he already allowed tree root dwellings for 8 months of the year, and that thrice pure meat and fish, meaning not seen, heard, or suspected to have been killed specifically for the monk, was permissible for those who chose to eat it.
So he affirmed the value, but refused to make them mandatory rules for all.
Exactly. He upheld individual choice and the existing Vinaya rules.
And Devadatta was happy about this refusal.
Delighted, because now he had his pretext. He went back to Rajagaha with his group and proclaimed, "See, the Buddha is indulgent. He doesn't endorse these truly strict ascetic practices, but we do."
How did people react to that?
It was mixed. Some people, described as unfaithful, were impressed by Devadatta's group. They thought, these are the real ascetics, and criticized the Buddha for being lax. But the faithful, those who understood the Dhamma better, saw through it and criticized Devadatta for trying to break the harmony of the Sangha.
Did the Buddha warn Devadatta about this course of action?
Oh, yes. Very seriously. He told Devadatta directly that causing a schism in a united Sangha is an incredibly grave offense. It creates karma that results in suffering in hell for an entire eon.
An eon? That's almost unimaginable.
It underscores the immense value placed on Sangha unity. But conversely, the Buddha also said that uniting a divided Sangha leads to immense merit, resulting in heavenly rebirth for an eon.
But Devadatta ignored the warning.
He did. He proceeded to formalize the split. On the next Uposatha day, the day for communal recitation of the rules, he called for a vote among the monks present on his 5 points.
And did anyone vote with him?
Tragically, yes. There were 500 monks present who were relatively newly ordained from Vesali. They were called the Vachiputaka. Being less experienced, they were apparently persuaded by Devadatta's rhetoric and perhaps impressed by the appeal of extreme asceticism. They genuinely believed his was the stricter, truer path, so they sided with him.
500 monks. That's a significant number.
It was a real schism. Devadatta then took these 500 monks and went off to a place called Gayasa to establish his separate community.
How did the Buddha respond to this actual split?
He sent his chief disciples, Sāriputta and Mahāmoggallāna, after them, not with force, but to try and bring the monks back through teaching.
There was some concern they might defect too.
Yes, one monk apparently started weeping, fearing that even the chief disciples were going over to Devadatta's side. But the Buddha reassured him, saying they were going purely to clarify the Dhamma.
So Sāriputta and Mahāmoggallāna arrive at Gayasisa. How does Devadatta react?
Devadatta is completely overconfident. He sees them coming and boasts to his followers, "Look, even the Buddha's chief disciples approve of my Dhamma. They're coming to join us." He even invites Sāriputta to share his teaching seat, sit beside him.
Did Sāriputta accept?
No, he politely declined and sat elsewhere. Then Devadatta, apparently tired after having given a long talk, says to Sāriputta, "My back is tired. You teach the monks for a while. I need to rest." And he lies down and falls asleep.
He falls asleep while his schism is happening.
It seems so. Perhaps arrogance, perhaps exhaustion. But while he sleeps, Sāriputta uses the opportunity to give a clear exposition of the true Dhamma, and Mahāmoggallāna uses his psychic powers to demonstrate the fruits of the correct path.
And the 500 monks.
Their minds were clarified. They saw the truth of the Buddha's teaching and attained the Dhamma eye, a level of deep insight. Sāriputta then simply said to them, "Let's go back to the Blessed One," and all 500 monks got up and followed Sāriputta and Mahāmoggallāna back.
What happened when Devadatta woke up?
Cullavagga, one of his main supporters, woke him up frantically, saying, "Get up! Sāriputta and Mahāmoggallāna have taken all your monks." The text says that upon hearing this, warm blood gushed from Devadatta's mouth.
A physical reaction to the shock and failure.
A very visceral image of his utter defeat. His entire project, built on ambition and misrepresentation, collapsed.
So looking back at this whole arc, what does the Buddha identify as the root causes of Devadatta's downfall?
He reiterates that it was 8 specific unwholesome states that overwhelmed Devadatta: gain and loss, fame and disrepute, honor and dishonor, having evil wishes, and having evil friends. He also gives a crucial warning against complacency and practice achieving some small attainment, like Devadatta's initial psychic power, and then stopping, becoming content with that, which leads to ruin.
It really emphasizes that spiritual progress requires ongoing effort and vigilance against these pitfalls.
Exactly. And that truly understanding the Dhamma isn't just about listening or initial insights. It requires deep absorption, practice, and guarding the mind against corruption.
So we've seen this dramatic story unfold. But the text then goes into more detail about the definition of schism itself, doesn't it? The Venerable Upali asks the Buddha to clarify.
Yes, this part is crucial for understanding the doctrinal side. The Buddha makes a key distinction between a saigaraji, which is like a rift or a quarrel, and a full Sanghabheda, a schism.
What's the difference?
A saigaraji, a rift, can happen with fewer monks. Like one monk disagrees with 2 or 2 disagree with 2. They might make separate declarations about the Dhamma or Vinaya, maybe hold separate observance days or community acts. It's a division, a quarrel, but it's not considered the full, most serious offense of schism.
So what constitutes the full Sanghabheda?
That requires a large group, specifically 9 or more fully ordained monks, bhikkhus. They have to formally agree to separate based on certain fundamental points of disagreement and then proceed to conduct their own separate Sangha acts, like ordination or the Uposatha ceremony.
And only a bhikkhu can cause it, not a nun or a layperson.
According to this text, yes. Only a fully ordained male monk can be the agent who actually causes a formal schism, although others might certainly try to incite division or support it.
What are these fundamental points of disagreement? It's not just minor differences of opinion, is it?
No, they're very fundamental. The Buddha lists 18 grounds. They all boil down to misrepresenting the core teachings and discipline. Things like declaring what the Buddha taught as wrong doctrine to be right doctrine, or vice versa. Declaring something non-disciplinary as disciplinary. Claiming the Buddha taught something he didn't, or practiced something he didn't, or laid down a rule he didn't.
So it's about twisting the fundamental Dhamma and Vinaya.
Precisely. Including things like misrepresenting the severity of offenses, calling a light offense heavy, or a gross offense no offense at all. When a group of 9 or more bhikkhus makes these kinds of claims and formally separates to conduct their own affairs based on these claims, that's a schism.
And the consequences? You mentioned rebirth in hell for an eon?
Yes, the Buddha states that very clearly. Splitting a united Sangha carries that incredibly heavy karmic weight, but he immediately contrasts it with the positive. Uniting a divided Sangha brings immense merit, leading to rebirth in heaven for an eon. It really highlights the value placed on harmony and correctness of Dhamma Vinaya.
Is someone who causes a schism always doomed, though? Always beyond help? Is there any possibility of recovery?
That's a great question, and Upali asks it too. Is a schism maker always incurable and destined for that terrible rebirth? The Buddha offers a crucial nuance here.
Okay.
He distinguishes between 2 types. The incurable schism maker is the one who, for example, declares wrong doctrine as right doctrine and firmly holds to that view, clinging to it with conviction while causing the split. Their fixed wrong view makes them incurable.
But there's another type?
Yes. The curable schism maker is one who might make the same wrong declaration, but doesn't firmly hold to that view. Maybe they were just confused or swayed by others, like perhaps some of those 500 monks initially were. They still participated in the act of schism, which is serious, but because they don't cling rigidly to the wrong view itself, they are not considered incurable in the same way.
So intention and the degree of conviction in the wrong view make a critical difference.
Exactly. It shows a level of psychological sophistication in understanding the nature of the offense. It's not just the act, but the underlying view and intention that determine the full karmic impact.
We've really gone deep into this whole story of Devadatta. From his, initial potential, the psychic powers.
Right, starting alongside figures like Hadiya and Anuruddha.
To that tragic downfall, completely consumed by his thirst for gain, honor, and ultimately power. Such a powerful cautionary tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
About how easily ambition can corrupt.
It really is. And beyond just Devadatta's personal story, This dive into the Sanghabhedakkhandhaka has shown us the incredible detail the early community went into defining what actually constitutes a schism. It wasn't just any disagreement.
No, it was a fundamental split based on misrepresenting the core truths and rules, with profound consequences attached.
And the Buddha's responses throughout the warnings, the public declarations, sending Sāriputta and Mahāmoggallāna, the taming of Nalagiri through metta, they all reveal so much about his wisdom and compassion, even in the face of extreme adversity.
So, for you, our listener, as you reflect on all this, what really stands out? How does understanding this fuller context, this whole story of Devadatta's actions and the Buddha's meticulous, principled responses, maybe deepen your appreciation for things like unity, right intention, and clarity, whether it's in the spiritual community or really any group or personal endeavor?
Yeah, maybe think about how often we might be influenced by surface appearances, like the monks initially misjudging Padiya's bliss, or how easily that desire for recognition or control can creep in and distort our motivations, just as it did with Devadatta. What can this ancient story teach us about navigating those very human tendencies today?